Hello everyone and welcome back, and today I'm going to go over all the modifications that I have done now to the GTX 460 SE. I'm also going to go over the ones that I did before in the other video, but as you can see I have very heavily modified the card since you've last seen it. So yeah, obviously I have gone to town with capacitors on this card. And yeah, so I have cap-modded 3 different power planes, and you're gonna see the 2 kinds of capacitors that I used before on the GTX 670. And yeah, none of these are my Nichicon P series caps that I got. I'm still saving these for the 670. It's just that I used up all the Capmod ones, the smaller ones, and then I have a few ones of the 16-volt ones left that I can use for other projects. So, but I mean, let's let's go through the timeline again with the modifications for the card. So the first thing I did was to get out Fermi BIOS editor, and I created a custom BIOS for the card that first unlocked the fan speed from a max of 70% to 100% for, well, better cooling. Specifically for better VRAM cooling. As you can see, there's no heatsink over there, and the VRAM is, I've said this in the other video, the VRAM is very, very prone to exploding if you do what I do on this card. And yeah, and then the second thing I did in the BIOS mod is unlock the voltage range. So stock, the card can go to a max of, I think, 1.075 volts. Now it can do to the max of the NVIDIA Fermi boost table, or voltage table, which is 1.213 volts. So the same voltage that I run my GTX 580 Direct CO2 on, because I did the same mod there. And yeah, it's this voltage that could be the end of the card actually, because the VRM will not handle this voltage for long. It does run, like you can run a Firestrike pass with the max voltage, but I do not trust the VRM to do anything more than that. And actually, while benchmarking and stress testing, I actually dialed down to 1.15 volts. Also because I really don't see scaling past that. So yeah. Then the second thing, which led to the card being dead for a short while, is this little potentiometer right here. That's a memory volt mod, as you can see by the M that I wrote on it. And yeah, well, I was able to get V-core voltage control by the BIOS edit, and yeah, memory voltage control I get by this hard mod right here. This is a 10k ohm potentiometer. Oh, is it? No, it's a 50k. I think it's a... Actually, I'm not that sure. I say the right number in the other video. So this is a potentiometer. It's connected to... Well, it's all on the other side. One side is connected to the ground of the PCI Express connector. The other one is directly connected to a leg of the PWM controller, because, well, usually you want to connect them to SMD components around the PWM controller, because soldering on legs is very difficult and sometimes even impossible. But right here we have one of the 8-pin PWM controllers that have really big and easy to solder on legs. And actually I did it, like I say this also in the other video, I soldered it here before. That connection was very weak and it disconnected while the card ran, and that resulted in the PWM controller freaking out and lowering the voltage so much that the card wouldn't run anymore. I mean, it would run, but it would artifact all over the place. So yeah, that's how it was temporarily dead. Then I redid the volt mod properly and now it runs again. And now we get to the stuff that I did after the last video, which is very obviously because there are a ton of capacitors on this card. So we have 5 470 microfarad 16 volt low ESR capacitors for the 12 volts power plane. One is connected directly to one of the PCI Express power connectors. The other 4 are on the connected to the legs of these capacitors that were already here. And I think it is the 12-volt power plant that actually got the biggest upgrade, because I already don't know if you can see that. Like the caps that were on there before were 271 microfarads, 4 of them. And now I put 5 470 microfarad caps on there. Like, is that... Like, I more than doubled the capacitance of the 12 volts power plane. Like, I have so many of these 16 volt caps, and I mean, if they lose, like, I think the 5th one is pretty unnecessary, but I just wanted to try and solder on one directly to the power connector and see if I can do that, which I can, but it looks really awful. And yeah, so the 12 volts power plane has now enough capacitance for basically anything. And then I went on to V-Core. So V-Core are these 2 little capacitors on the core, and then these 2 ones that are just on empty solder pads for these SMD aluminum polymer capacitors here. And then I also added another 16 volt one. I did that after. So first I only ran these 4 here. And yeah, that actually did a lot. Like, I did the mod for the 12 volts power plane and core at the same time, so I can't tell you which one did the most. But I can tell you that the card improved a lot. So before, I didn't really stress test it that much. But I can tell you that before I ran Heaven on the card, and 850 megahertz would crash instantly. 800 would run for a while, but I'm actually not sure if it was stable. And that was with stock voltage, or the old max, which is not that high. And then after the cap mod, it did 900 megahertz stock voltage and 950 yeah, 950. I actually don't know at what voltage. It was not max voltage, because 950 was possible with max voltage before the mods. Yeah, I think it did 950 at like 1 volt or something, so pretty close to stock. Yeah. And so yeah, the card improved a lot, like core improved a lot, and I mean that was to be expected. Like, Nvidia cards seem to benefit a lot from cap mods. And yeah, I tried to rerun my Firestrike score. Like, I actually did look up HWBot and looked for a GTX 460 SE ranking, and yes, there is one. And I noticed there are only 2 entries. And the first one was very obviously a stock entry, so there was only one guy who had the card overclocked. And yeah, with the first wave of cap mods, I only undercut him by like 10 points. Like, I was at 3051, he was like at 3066. So I tried to beat the score. But yeah, and encountered some instability. Like, I got a lot of artifacts that look like RAM to me, but it was mostly in graphics test 1. And these artifacts are mostly gone in graphics test 2, and they didn't really get worse or disappear with different RAM clocks, so I presume it is core. So I thought, okay, maybe I'm gonna have to run max voltage again. Or I'm just gonna do more cap mods. And as you can see, I decided to just do more cap mods. And for a while I had to decide where I would put my last caps on, because I only had 3 more of these 4 volt caps. And then after that I only had the 16 volt ones and the Nichicon that I wanted to save for different cards. So I had to decide, do I put some more on the core, or do I cap mod memory? Because memory also had some, like, it clocked pretty well from the beginning, and especially because I have voltage control on it, I can push it pretty far. But if core benefits that much from cap modding, I think it would be kind of a waste not to mod memory, so I decided to mod memory. And I put my last 3 Camot capacitors on the memory. So one right here on this chip, and one right here that's kind of shared between these two, and then one here that takes care of these 3 ones. This one doesn't really do that much because like it's pretty close to the VRM, but the other ones are pretty far from the VRM, so these should have a bigger impact. And then just for the hell of it, I decided to solder another cap to the core. Like this is one of the 16-volt ones. It is a low ESR spec, but like it's a 16-volt cap, so it's gotta have it probably still has a higher ESR than the Capmod ones, even though those were not a low ESR spec. It's just like higher voltage cap, the higher ESR basically. And yeah, this is also only 470 microfarad, whereas these are 560. So this cap doesn't really do that much, but I mean there was still space on the back of the core. And yeah, so I have way too many of these 16-volt ones, so I just put one on. I mean, if it does nothing, it does nothing. If it improves something, well, yeah, mission successful. And actually, like this, like I finished the mods like half an hour ago. So I didn't run, like I tested the card if it still works. Yeah, it still works fine. I didn't try, I haven't checked how much better it overclocks now. I'm still gonna have to do that. I'm just not doing it now. Actually, I wanted to make the video before I did the second wave of cap mods, but then I thought just, well, gonna put the other caps on too, and then make a video about, yeah, if you have NVIDIA cards, especially older ones, cap mod them, please cap mod them. Like they benefit a lot from cap modding, and I mean that's I think up to the 780 Ti, maybe even the 980 Ti. Like they're not that much different from each other. Like I know that 780 Ti's benefit from cap modding too, also on the core. And yeah, so I think even 1080 Ti's benefit from cap modding. Like generally NVIDIA cards just cap mod them. And then AMD usually takes care of their capacitor situation, but you can still get a tiny little bit of extra performance from cap modding. It's just not that much because like AMD reference PCBs, like the thing is, if you have an NVIDIA reference PCB and you compare that to a partner PCB from say MSI or Gigabyte, you will mostly see that MSI's or Gigabyte's PCB is gonna be higher quality than the one from NVIDIA. That has now changed with the 20 series because NVIDIA has been putting out some pretty high quality PCBs, so they are mostly on par with the partner designs now. But before it was like NVIDIA reference PCB is like the bottom of the barrel, and then with AMD it's like the AMD reference PCB is the best, and then all the partner PCBs are mostly the same but down costed. So yeah, NVIDIA cards, yeah, I think it's worth to cap mod NVIDIA cards. Like even AMD cards, I would still do that, but like on NVIDIA cards, the benefit seems to be much bigger. And yeah, I mean, it looks kind of funny now with all these caps on it, especially the free ones that are like, they basically look like a spoiler for the card, like it's a racing car now. Yeah, but I mean, actually, I quite like how the card looks, like compared to the other cards that I've made. Like this looks pretty clean, like the volt mod is clean, it's under the shroud, and then apart from the one on the power connector, the caps are attached pretty nicely, like there's not that much excess solder, like maybe that blob right there, but yeah, I've been steadily getting better with soldering, like I pretty much started at 0, like that video I did with the VCore sense line, that's the 3rd time I ever soldered. And then like, yeah, every time except for the very first time that I saw that I have on video on this channel. So yeah, I started pretty much from zero, and I really like how this now looks. Like it looks pretty clean. It actually looks like I know what I'm doing, which I think mostly I do. I don't know where I am on the where I'm on the Dunning-Kruger scale right now. Like I'm more confident than, like, say, a few weeks ago, but I'm still aware that there's probably a lot of stuff that I don't know. So yeah. But I mean, it's also kinda something I want to do with the channel, like to show how the things I do are progressing, and then yeah, I mean, when I get better, my content gets better, and people can, like, it helps people do their own mods better. So yeah. And then yeah, not to make this video all too long again. I think that's pretty much it for the for the 460 SE and the cap mods. And I don't know if I'm gonna do a power bridge on this. Like, I mean, I could, but I mean, I don't have any more of the Camet caps. I only have the 16 volt and the Nichicons now, and I don't wanna, like, I want to use the Nichicons for cards that I actually want to run for HW bot. Like, right now I'm running this for HW bot too, but I mean, it's I still think it's pretty likely that at some point I'm gonna blow up the VRM, and because of that, I don't think this card is worth the Nichicon FP series caps, especially because those caps probably cost more than the card. Like, again, this card was €6. I think alone from the mods I did to it, I doubled the money I put into this card. So yeah, like I mean, this is, yeah, I mean, it's like I said in the beginning, it's a test bed, and then once I figured out what I want to do, and once I'm confident enough I can pull it off in a good way, I'm gonna move on to the 670 and mod that one, because the 670, I actually care about the 670. That's a nice card. It has a nice core. It has nice memory. The PCB has a lot of modding potential, and yeah, it scores good. It has a nice, decent custom air cooler. So yeah, I quite like the 670. I mean, I like this too, but less so than the 670. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna do one follow-up video at some point where I'm gonna go over how the card now clocks. Like, I'm gonna try to beat I'm gonna try to get to first place on HW bot now. But I'm not gonna do it right now. Like, maybe later today. It's pretty early. So, oh, never mind. It's 2 p.m. I consider that early. It's the weekend. I can stay up a long time. Yeah, and so yeah, that's it. Maybe one more follow-up video to the card, and then I don't really have anything more planned for it. Like, uh yeah, I decide to do things on a rather quickly, so maybe I'm gonna decide to do something more with this that I'm not aware of now. But for now, like, yeah, apart from maybe one more follow-up video, I don't have anything planned for the card right now. And I think that's it for the video, and we've managed again to get it to 20 minutes. Yeah, so, okay. That's really it. So, thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed, and until next time, goodbye.